Welcome to another episode of the Starter Girls podcast. Wherever you are tuning in today, we are so glad to have you. I'm your host, Jennifer Loading. All right, we're going to get things officially started here today. So from orphanages in South Korea to building a 7-figure business, this is more than a success story. It's a blueprint for anyone who's ever been underestimated, overlooked, or told they weren't enough. It's a reminder that your past doesn't define your potential. Your mindset does. And so you are going to hear from an incredible guest today. I'm so excited to chat with her. This is the first time we're actually getting to meet. This is going to be so much fun. But before I bring her on, I do need to do a quick shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Productions. Need to add excitement to your YouTube videos or some expert hands for editing? Look no further. Walt Mills is the solution you've been searching for. Walt is not only your go-to guy for spicing up content, he's the force behind a thriving film production company with numerous titles in the pipeline. Always on the lookout for raw talent, Walt is eager to collaborate on film and internet productions. With a background deeply rooted in entertainment and promotion, Walt Mills leverages years of skills to give you the spotlight you deserve. Want to learn more about Walt and his work? Head on over to waltmillsproductions.net and let your content shine. All right. And with that, we do want to also tell you to head on over to startergirls.com. And why do you want to go over there? For a few reasons. One, if you have missed an episode or want to catch up with any of those early day episodes, you can find them there. You can also sign up for our community newsletter and keep up with all the information and episodes that are going out. And then, of course, if you are an entrepreneur, maybe you're starting out or maybe you've been here for a while and you want to figure out what may be something that could be holding you back right now, we have a fun quiz over there. It's a 2-minute quiz, and it will tell you what subconscious block or pattern may be hindering your success. So again, head on over to startergirls.com and do your thing. All right. With that, we do want to welcome our guest onto the show. So today we are talking to Sun Yong Kim-Manzolini, a powerhouse entrepreneur, author, and mindset mentor. Born in South Korea and raised in orphanages due to a physical disability, she overcame incredible odds. After being adopted at 14, she went on to work in the medical field for over 3 decades, but knew deep down she was meant for more. As a single mom tired of living paycheck to paycheck, she taught herself option trading and investing, turning a $35,000 salary into a $178,000 income in just 1 year. Today, she runs Lush Enterprises and helps others, especially single parents, break financial barriers through her miracle system. She's proof that no matter where you start, you can design a life of wealth, freedom, and purpose when you choose to believe in your own transformation. So, Sun Yong, welcome to Starter Girls. I am so excited to have you here today.
I am so excited to be here on your podcast. And
Thank you.
The way you introduced me, I think just said it beautifully. I don't know if I need to say anything more. No, I'm just kidding.
This is, hey, listen, you don't know me, and I'm going to tell you this really quick. So I spent 22 years in Mary Kay, with many of those years in leadership. And so obviously in that world, we do a lot of accolades. And so it was very normal for us to be introduced with accolades or, introduce our team with accolades. And so for me, this is just normal part of my day, but it's probably one of my most favorite parts of doing the creation of this, because I get to sort of kind of paint the picture of who the person is that we're going to chat, with. But also I think it's fun because you guys sort of get to hear that about yourself. And I think it's fun when somebody sort of kind of tells us who we are, like reads back to all the things we've done. You know what I mean? So it's fun for me as much as it is for you too.
Yes, it is a lot of fun. It's just great.
So awesome. When you've done some awesome things. So I want to talk about you. I want to talk about this journey, what you've learned, because I know people listening to this today are going to be like, wow, this is just incredible. So tell us a little bit about, let's start with what you're doing now. I want to start there with where you're at right now in your life. And then we're going to back this up just a tad after that.
Okay, sure. Boy, right now at this moment, I'm just literally like living my dream life. Seriously. Being retired and just teaching people how to make money, the skills that they need to learn, because we all need the money, right? And being able to travel. And if things are like, needs to be replaced, appliances, the broken appliances, anything, it's not like I have to wait 30 days or next paycheck. I could just go and get it now. It's like, okay, something's broken, let's replace it now. If we don't want any like a carpet and into like wood floor. Let's just do it now. Where my life before, I was living like paycheck to paycheck. It's like, I can't even do that. It's like, I got to wait 2 or 3 years. I have to wait till I save up money. So living this dream life, having that peacefulness and feeling content and stay home and being able to travel being able to fly first class, which I never got to do when I was working for a company at my dream job, but being able to fly, first class and just having that extra, a TLC care of level that when you travel. And once you're there, I remember like once in a while when I would go on vacations before I became a, 7-figure entrepreneur was that like once I got there, like it took all of my money to get here with the airline tickets and place to stay, but I have no money to go do anything. Where now it's like dream life is like, wow, we're here on a first class and we're able to travel. We're able to go out to eat. We could, go on a vacation for like a month at a time, not just 1 week or 2 weeks, right? And it's just unbelievable. It is just a way how the things that I have learned that I'm able to, live it daily basis, continue to practice and continue to teach people, teaching people the walks and talks that I do. You know what I mean? Because that is a very, very important part of our life is to give back to the world, paying forward and being having that gratitude of like everything that I have accomplished. Because obviously I didn't do this all by myself. I didn't do it with all easiness. It's just like willing to tackle, willing to face the obstacles. It's not like, okay, I think I'm going to do that. And it was just breeze. No, it didn't happen like that. It was just a long journey, but it was just fun. And the funnest part of the journey is that the lessons that I have learned and the curvings, you know what I mean? Like the failures that I've been through and using that as like my stepping stone instead of going, oh, I'm scared, like, I don't think I'm going to do that anymore. No, like you just keep going. It's like, oh, there's another path I got to go through. Let's do it. It's just amazing. And people that are around you that we surround ourselves is just so different too, just because already automatically your mindset is just like elevated than your normal life. I just can't explain it. It's just wonderful.
Well, in listening to you, it's interesting because in all the years that I was in Mary Kay, we had these different levels, right? We had on the top were these Meriti and the national. And the Meriti were obviously the retired ones. And then we had the national sales directors, which are where kind of the epitome of where all of the Mary Kay, most of Mary Kay, they wanted to live because in that lifestyle, that's what you're talking about. Basically, it's that freedom to travel. And so it's interesting because I talked to these people and I heard this for years from them. What you're kind of essentially talking about right now is just this freedom, right? Freedom to choose. And we used to always talk about, in Mary Kay, like money doesn't buy happiness, but it buys you freedom to choose, right? And so when you don't have it, it's like not breathing, right? Like when you don't, and because you've been on that side and you've been on this side. And so it's so interesting when you say, like it's hard to explain. And it's like you're on this other side and this other side and you can't unsee it, right? Like you can't unsee this other side. So it's so great and refreshing, to hear this from you. But also I think what's remarkable about your story is to show people that where you came from and how you worked to this place, right? Mm-hmm. Now to have that, because it wasn't something where you just woke up and you're like, oh my goodness, I dream a genie, blink, whatever, wiggle your nose and you're there. No, you had to put in all the work to get to this place. And I think that's what's so neat is that you're talking about this and showing people that, hey, this was the process, or this is what I had to go through and to get to this place. So I commend you for that. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. I love it. And I'm with you. I feel like it's sort of like when I talk about like wisdom, you can't unsee what you see, right? Like it's like once you learn something, you can't unsee it. And you're like, how did I not ever see that before? But you weren't supposed to see it. That was not your place to see it at that time, right?
Exactly.
When you see it is when you see it.
Yeah. And you are right on spot too. Just because as we're journeying through, we just think about just why me, or I can't handle this anymore. We don't think about anything else but just our mom. And it's like, oh, this is just terrible. And I don't know if I could take another step. I don't know if I could go on like this for another month or a year, We just think about how bad that is instead of, if we were to focus on, what this could turn into, because we don't
Yeah.
know. We don't know. But a lot of things that I've done as I was growing up that I didn't think about, like, if I do this, this is what I'm going to get, because I didn't have anybody around me to let me know that's what the result is. It's just when you
Mm.
find yourself like, okay, enough is enough. My life has to be different than what I'm living now.
Yeah.
Then you have to do something about it.
Right.
And so little teeny steps that you take, like today, like we could look at ourselves and say, okay, what do I have right now that I could do to be successful? And then a lot of times we think, well, I got to have money, I got to have a successful business, and I got to have a team that, no, especially when you don't have those things. What
Right.
can you do within within your circle, within your surroundings? Like, what can you find that is going to change and shift your life?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. No, I agree with you totally. And it's starting, I always say start where you are, right? Like
Yeah.
start where you are with what you have in that moment.
Yes.
Because we always like to look at something and go compare ourselves to somebody else's journey and we don't even have all the resources or the things that they've got in that place, right? So we have to really just start with where we are. But it's so good that you say that because it compounds over time. The little things that we do just keep compounding. And it's like this in everything. It doesn't matter whether you're setting out a business or you're adopting a new lifestyle plan, whatever it is, or you're going to take on a new educational course, whatever. It's all these compounding effects that we do step by step along the way. So
Yeah.
good. I love it. Want to back it up. I want to talk a little bit about your journey because you've had a remarkable journey. And I love these stories. Like I am a sucker for these stories because I think they really show you that anything is possible,
Yeah.
and you strike me as the type of person, you said this because you didn't really know different, that, I firmly believe unless somebody tells me something can't be done, there's always a part of me that's like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna test that water. Like I'm just gonna, and maybe that's why my kids are this way. When we were talking about them doing things that sometimes I just have to like pause for a moment. Apple meet tree, right? Because I am one of those that if somebody tells me something can't be done, and if they haven't shown me that it really can't be done,
Hmm.
then I'm going to want to maybe check that out,
Yeah.
So you strike me as a type of person that's like, I'm going to keep pushing. So let's back up and tell us a little bit about the beginning stages of how we got to where we are.
Sure. So just to make it really quick here. So basically, I was born in South Korea. And when I was a little girl, my mother passed away. And then right after that, my dad decided to just kind of leave. Didn't tell us where he was going or nothing. I don't ever remember having a communications with him at all. Although before my mother passed away, he would bring me a pretty dress to wear, but I could never enjoy it just because I couldn't stand up to wear it and then show it off. I was just always on the floor, just not able to walk. So just basically, so my dad passed, took off without telling us where he was going. He did tell my sister and say, I want you to take care of Sun Young. So my sister and I, we became an instant orphan after my dad left us. So we were in an orphanage in Mokpo, lived there for a couple of years. At that orphanage, there was a couple of things I realized as a little girl. Sometimes we watch things or listen to people, the grown-ups, and then we realize, or okay. And so at that orphanage, I realized that I thought that my family was normal. When my dad left us, I was like, how could you do that to us? Like, that's mean. Like, we need a mother and a father to take care of us, but here we are. But that orphanage, I would hear babies crying, and then the orphanage workers would go open the front door and pick up a newborn baby, to like 2 or 3 months old even, and wrapped in a thin blanket. And the baby would just cry, cry, cry until someone would pick him up. And so they would open the door and pick up the baby, and they would just talk about, oh, we got another baby today to take care of. It's an orphanage. So right those moments, I realized, my family is normal. It's normal for family to drop their kids off or leave and go somewhere else. Another thing that I realized living in that orphanage was that I want to be able to do the things other kids were doing, which was they were playing outside. They were walking, and I could not walk. And I thought,
Mm.
why can I not walk? And so I want that, right? I want that. Then just a few months later, my sister, out of the blue, she showed me a picture and she says, I want to take you to this new place. And I'm like, what is this place? She says, this is a place that you're going to learn to walk. But in back of my mind, watching other kids playing outside, I wanted to learn to walk because I wanted to play outside. But when it came to an opportunity where my sister says, here, I'm going to take you to this place and this is where you're going to learn to walk. And I said, wait a minute. I don't want that. How many times do we do that? We look at things
Right.
and that's what we want. But then what we have to go through, we're like, no, thank you. Right? And so when
Right. The fear sets in.
my sister gave me an opportunity and said, I'm going to take you this place where they're going to teach you how to walk. And I said, no, thanks. No, I just want to live with you. That's all I want. I lost my mom and dad. You're the only person that I have. Nope, I'm good. I don't want it. And as her older than me, she had a responsibility to take care of me. Remember, she lost her mom too. We're sisters, right? And so she says, so she took me there in that second orphanage, and it was just full of handicapped kids. It was like a rehab center. And when I went into that orphanage, I was so scared because I have never seen so many kids in my life. Every corner that you turn around, everybody was walking with the wheelchair. I mean, walking with the crutches, walking with the limp, and getting around with the wheelchairs. And I have never seen anybody all at one time. I was just scared. Well, in that orphanage, my sister and I, we kind of fought back and forth, leaning, like saying, I don't want to leave you, I don't want you to go. I want you to stay with me and all that back and forth. And finally, like, I don't know, it took like more than an hour. I would say like it was all morning long, just going back and forth. And she was talking to the orphanage workers there. And finally she says, I have to go to the bathroom. And I said, okay, no problem. I'll go with you. Like she's used to taking me to the bathroom because I can walk, right? And so it was it was just normal thing. And I said, no problem. I'll go with you. And she says, this time she says, you cannot come with me. She says, I'll be right back. And I thought, that's strange. But I said, no, I don't trust you. Somehow I have this instinct, even as a little girl. It's like something is off. Something's off a little bit. So I said, no, I'll go. We'll hold hands. We'll go. She says, no, I'll be right back. And she even pinky promised. She says, I'll be right back. And let's promise each other. And in Korea, when we pinky promise means it's like literally like promise. So I let her go because she said she had to go to the bathroom so bad. And I let her go. And I waited all day. When the dinner time came, I didn't want to eat dinner. I was still waiting for her to come back to me. Never came back. That's the moment, Jennifer, I realized my life fell apart. Like I didn't want to live anymore. I didn't want to exist. I mean, I wanted to crawl back into my mother's dead womb, and I wanted to tell her. I wanted to tell my mom, say, Mom, guess what happened? After you died, Dad left. Now my sister left. Now I'm all alone. What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to survive? I wanted to tell those things to my mother. I was just aching in my heart. And that day, when I decided for me how my life is going to be, I'm never going to talk to anybody. I'm never going to trust anybody. I never will smile at anybody, period. I decided that for me that day.
Yeah.
So I was left there, didn't have a choice. And I was just watching people getting around. And one of the staff worker told me, so I think that you need to learn to walk. That's where your sister dropped you off here. And I didn't talk to her or anything. I was just really mad. And she showed me what to do. We didn't have any physical therapists or anybody, not like American Life, So she showed me there's a long hallways everywhere. There's long hallways, and that's a rehab center. So everybody was hanging on to things, getting around wheelchairs and everything. So she showed me hang onto the rail, stand up and sit down, stand up and sit down, stand up and sit down. She said, That's all you do. You do that until you feel comfortable. Once you feel comfortable, then you hang onto the rail and you take a step. And I thought to myself, I can't do that. Nobody's here to help me. But I didn't have a choice. As I was watching other kids getting around, I couldn't even get around. I was just scooting myself on the floor with my buttock and my hands on my right knee getting around this way.
Wow.
I wanted to
Yeah.
be able to at least get around in a wheelchair. And so, okay, I'll do that. So my main thing in that orphanage was just doing that. That's all I did. Eat my meals and just did that. I didn't talk to anybody. I had nothing to do live for that. I didn't want to associate with anybody. I didn't care to make friends. That's all I did. Because I wanted to get around like other kids. And then when I was about 6 or 7 years old, so I was put in that orphanage about age 5. And it took me about a year or two to learn to walk on my own just by doing that process for years. And when I was about 6, 7 years old, I remember all the staffs were sitting on a chair. They put me in the middle of the floor and they says, okay, now I want you to take a second. They watched me what I could do, right? Obviously, I didn't know they were watching me, but obviously they were watching me. They put me in the middle of the room and everybody was around away from me. And they said, stand up. And so I stood up in the middle of the floor like this, right? And they says, now take a step. There's nothing next to me for me to hang on to. There was no chair. There was nobody, no rails. I was just me and the floor, middle of the room. And they told me to take a step. And I was just so scared. That was the scariest moment in my life at age 6 or 7. And they says, take a step. And I said, They says, take a step. We know you could do it. I said, I said, I gotta have something. I gotta hang on to something. She goes, nope, you don't need it.
Right.
They're just watching me. So after it took me probably like an hour going back and forth and I was shaking. I was just so scared. And finally took a step with my right foot like this. And I was watching the floor, make sure the floor did not move because they didn't tell me floor was not going to move. They just said, just take
Right.
a step. So I looked at the floor, nothing's near me. And I just took a one step with my right foot. And I was smiling because the floor didn't move. It stayed. So then I thought, okay. And they says, now take another step with the left foot. And I was like, they're just crazy. I can't take another step. I'm going to fall. Anyway, it took me a long time to take my second step. I'll tell you, when that happened at the moment, my life turned around 360 degrees where I was like, I hate the world. I don't trust anything. That process, I learned to trust those people because they told me to take a step and I did. But then I also learned to trust myself because
I was going to say, bam.
yes, I
Yep.
did those process of practicing every single day and put to test and then took a step and I thought, I could do this. I cannot believe it. And the first thing that I wanted to do is to do running around being a gopher, running errands for everybody, for the whole orphanage, because they cannot walk normal. I can now.
Yes. It
And
lit a fire in you.
I was just so happy. So I would do errands for everybody. Like, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need to take? Carry, younger kids on my back and just carry them to one place to the other. I was just so happy. That was like my new life. And I realized that moment that I could also pay back and I could also give to the world. I didn't learn to walk to help people, help
Right.
my friends.
No.
I just wanted to be like them. I want to be able to get around from place A to place B. That's all. But when you accomplish those goals, then you think about something bigger. It's like, what else can I do with my walking legs? How can I contribute? How can I make a difference in other people's life?
Yeah. It's a good story. Wow. Well, and it's, what's so interesting about your story is, so in one of the coaching programs that I'm certified, we use the example of a baby walking, like how when babies fall down, they get right back up and they don't really make excuses. They just get right back up and start walking. And how we, like you kind of portrayed very vividly and expressively, we start to have fear and start to doubt ourselves, and so we just pause and we don't move. And so you literally had to learn to walk. You basically had to learn to do that. And I think there's so much about this. I mean, you're talking about in the beginning this whole abandonment thing and how that creeped in and really blocked you from seeing your potential, but then you had this moment where you realized, now I can do something different for myself, and I have the power to do that. And people believed in me, and when they believed in me, it gave me the courage and the strength to actually do something. So there's so many great messages in this. And then the giving it back, when now you conquered something, and it gives you the ability now to share that story and help other people with your new gift. And you know what I mean? There's so many great things in that story. So I love it.
And yeah, and I just think that if I wasn't a mother, I would not realize all the things that I realize now. And like you pointed out, a few things was that, it clicked into my mind. So it's interesting. Life teaches us so many lessons, no matter what age we
Yes.
are, only if your
Yes.
mind is open to listen. Because the
Yes.
people that have a
I agree.
closed mind, they will not hear a thing. They will not hear
You
a
are
thing.
so right.
But when
Right.
you're willing to listen and you're willing to tap into, it's like, you know what? There are so many lessons that I want to learn that I can learn to benefit me and to benefit those around me and to the world, you know? And so, but everything that you learn, you have to do it yourself first. You have to get the results. You have to enjoy the results from what you're going through to be able to share that with others, right? And so when I was a mother, I have 4 kids. And like you just talked about, as a kids were learning to crawl, I remember putting the toys in front of the kids and, my babies when they're learning to crawl at age 3 months or something. And goes, oh, good. And we clap. And then we put our toys a little bit further so they could reach, it's like, okay, you came this far. Let's see if you could go for a toy a little bit further. And so they crawl and they look for I have missed all those process. I have never gotten those things as an abandoned child, as an orphan. And so again, as a mother, I realized and I go, aha, I was missing all these things. And when I was learning to walk, like you said, when my kids are learning to walk and they fall, they hang on to things and they fall down, and then we help them and say, come on, you can do it. Take another step. Come on, come on, come on. We encourage them, right?
Right.
And as a child, all those things were never been through. I was ignored,
Yeah.
you know. In fact, when I
Yeah.
came to America, when I went to my adopted family took me to many different specialists and trying to figure out why I did not learn to walk. When human being as a child is being neglected, not being paying attention to, or being held, loved, none of those were there for me. So how
Yeah.
am I
You
supposed to
didn't
learn?
get that the early bonding and
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
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 I didn't get anything mentally, physically, any, bonding or the love, caring, right? And
Right.
so I have learned, like, every time, became a mother, it's like, wow, wow, wow. It's like, okay, okay, okay. And so instead of feeling sorry for myself, I thought, I am so glad that I am a mother because I learned things that nobody explained to me, that what I've been through, but what I was missing.
Right. Right.
It's so interesting. Life is just so interesting.
It is. It is. And I tell you, I feel I'm like, if we talk about the topic of motherhood, I'm like, man, there's no like manual in life that can tell you how to be a mother, right? Like, or what you're going to go through. Because I tell you, I learn. My kids are all adults now, and I learn every day. And it's so funny because I remember them being little humans and thinking, man, toddlers are just hard because they're mouthy and they're like stubborn. And then we got to like young adult, like the 18 and up mark. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like that all over again. But now they're legal age, and now they can let you know their legal age. And so now you got that going on, and them threatening that they can take care of themselves, but they really can't take care of
Yes.
themselves. So I'm like, there is no manual that tells you any of this stuff. And you're right. I think the wisdom comes in just the doing, and you said something earlier I wanted to come back to, because funny enough, I'm going through a previous episode that I had last week with a doctor. She's a former doctor that now is kind of gone into maybe a little bit more of what you're doing, more mentorship or more giving back, that kind of thing. And we were talking about a lot about the difference between like satisfaction and success. But one of the things I brought up was narrow minded people. We were talking about being curious, right? Like how you need to be curious in life
Yes.
in order to find the things you need to find and to learn and all that. And I said, there's nothing more like, I don't know what I exactly said, but really in my mind, there's nothing more that's a turnoff dealing with somebody. It's a narrow minded person, a person that says, this is the way it is, it's the way it's always been. And we're just stuck in this, right? Like, she was really emphasizing this whole thing about we need to be curious. And so I think to your point, yes, that's exactly why you've been able to do the things you've been able to do, because you led with curiosity and in a mindset, I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to be better, I'm willing to improve, do things differently. Right. And I feel like that's sort of kind of the way I live my life too. And I'm not going to lie, there's not times, sometimes I get stuck in my moment in a pattern. I'm like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
But I always try to be of the mindset that if there's a better way of doing something, or if I can improve and be better, show up differently, learn more, then I'm going to choose to try to do that. So the lessons are there if you're curious and open to them.
There's so many like valuable lessons that we could learn each day too, but it's just amazing. And and so going back to where, so, I was adopted by an American family at age 14. And then as a teenager, like I said, I'm talking about my teenage kids. It's like they got to be a teenagers, they got to go out with friends, go to the movies and, hang out. My teenage life was like, okay, I have to learn new language. I have to learn to trust people all over again. And I have to learn to be a part of the family which I was not part of for first
You
14
didn't have the
years.
dynamics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to learn that, right? And besides, like, I have to learn the whole new culture, like how to eat different foods that I have never seen or tasted, or like, like different food than rice. And then I have to wear clothes that I'm not feeling comfortable wearing. It's like, so there's that moment of like being 14, but at the same time, I was scared because I thought I have to prove to these people that adopted me that it's worth their time and their money to adopt me. Otherwise, I'm going to be a big failure and they're going to be disappointed. And to the point where I thought they were going to send me back to Korea because they adopted me as a special needs child because I was born with a hair lip. I could not walk. But by then I did walk, but my legs were really crooked. So they had to spend all kinds of money on surgeries, fixing my lips up, my legs up and everything. So they adopted me knowing that I had all these problems, but so here they are giving me an opportunity. And I just wanted to make sure that nobody's disappointed, that I'm not a failure to anybody. When somebody gives you an opportunity for a new life, like I have to embrace it. But it was hard work. It wasn't easy. It was hard work. But something that made me realize when they adopted me, when they brought me to Utah, they picked me up from their private plane from San Francisco. They came to Utah. And the first day, they let me sleep. Obviously, the hours are different, night and day. So everybody was asleep and I was wide awake. And then I was bored because everybody was asleep. And then everybody was awake and I was asleep. And they would be huddled around my bed and waiting for me to wake up because it was just the summer just began. I came on May 27th. And so kids just got into summer and they were just waiting for me to wake up. And I would just sleep all day. But the day that I woke up all day and the very next day, they knew that I had nothing. I didn't bring anything other than just a few pictures from my orphanage, pictures of my friends from orphanage. That's all I had. And the clothes that I wore, they send the money to orphanage for them to buy it so that I wore something decent. But they showered me with your basic necessity, like underwear, bra, shoes, and purse, and I mean, like you name it, like clothes and dress, and I was just like, I cannot believe this. Like this is enough for the rest of my life. I don't need anything anymore. This is just unreal. Like not only they gave me a family, like they adopted me, they showered me with all these things that is gonna last me for the rest of my life. I just cannot believe it. So the moment when I was showered with those gifts, to them it was just basic necessity for
Right.
just a human being to have. But for me, it was just like unbelievable. Like just to have a one pair of shoes enough. Just one pair of underwear is enough for me. One bra is enough. But having more than one pair of socks, more than one pair of shoes, one tennis shoes, one school shoes, one for church, three pair of shoes. Oh my gosh, I was just so excited. I was just like, my jaw just dropped. I didn't know what to do. I just broke down with tears because I just thought, I cannot believe that someone wanted me and took me in their arms, took me into their family, and they showered me with all these gifts that I have to have. It was just amazing. So I just feel like every hour, every minute, I have to prove to them that I am really worth the money that they spend on me to get me here to the United States. I was worth their time for them to buy me all the things that they bought me, basic necessity things. I was just so grateful. So here I am so I did exactly what they told me to do, study hard, get a good paying job. And, so I did that. So I landed myself, dream job as a certified medical assistant, working for doctors for side by side with them, working with the patients for 33 years. And my parents were proud. I was really happy. I was just so happy because anybody could get a job in America if you really, willing to. But to land in a dream job, that's because I wanted to do something that I feel really happy doing. And I didn't care about the money at the time. I just wanted to be,
Yeah.
they says job, like money doesn't make you happiness or buy you
Right.
happiness. And it's more important to have a, happy job that you
Yeah.
do versus making money. And I was
Yeah.
stuck in that mindset. Like, sure, I love it. I would so excited to go to bed night before, just so excited to get up in the morning just to go to work. I was just that excited every single day. It was just like a Christmas every day in America, Christmas in America, because I got to taste of that. But then I thought to myself, like, wait. I'm at my dream job. I love what I was doing, but why am I struggling living paycheck to paycheck? Like something's wrong with this picture.
Yes.
And
Yes.
not only that, but I was having to work on my days off. I worked 4 10-hour days. And then my only day I was doing side jobs. I was cleaning houses. There's some years where I was doing catering business. And there's some years I sold vacuums at night. It's like, why am I doing all these extra jobs on my days off on the weekends at my dream job? Because I was not making my dream income. It clicked. And I thought, I don't care no matter how much I love my job, but I've got to make enough money to make ends meet. Not living paycheck to paycheck, not struggling to pay bills. So again, the things that I have done as a younger age, like I want that. I see somebody doing that. I see somebody's walking. I see somebody's doing, why not me? So I took on exactly same scenario
Approach. Yep.
approach and say, there's a people out there making money. They're working at their dream job and they're making their dream income. Why not me? It was
Yes.
like a biggest turn on in my mind. It's like nobody in my family member, I mean, everybody was happy. My kids were happy because they knew that I was good at what I was doing. And they don't know all the struggles that I went through. I mean, there's
Right.
times where I would get a notice on my door, you know. I mean, I was married for 14 years with my first husband, and then I divorced him. And then I was a single mother raising kids for 14 years on my own. There's times where I would get a notice on my door and say, you know what, your uterus is going to get turned off within 24 hours. I would hide that before kids got home. I didn't want my kids to see,
Right. Right.
and a lot of things that we go through because, we don't want to worry kids, right? When they saw that, they would worry. It's like, Mom, what are we going to do? It was just my
Right.
only worry I want to take on. But so I thought, I'm going to have to do something different. And I thought, if I'm going to stay at my dream job that I love so much, I won't be able to retire until they kick me out. I'm so old and I start shrinking and, I can't perform my job. They're going to force me to, retire. I don't want to be that place. And I was staying at that job because I loved it, but then also feeling guilt because everybody was happy. I was making everybody happy. I was making my
More taking
doctors,
care of yourself. Yeah.
my patients happy, and my parents were happy because they knew that how much I love my job, and they thought that I have made right. And don't get me wrong, I was grateful for the job that I got, through education and went to going to school as a certified medical assistant. Everything, it wasn't easy either, but at the end, it was my dream job, and so I thought, nope, I'm gonna have to retire. I have no choice. I have to retire. And so I start getting myself, going to seminars for real estate investors, financial investors, and I got myself trying to prepare myself before I actually retire. Just like getting a new job, and you have to, make sure that you have a new job lined up before you quit your old job. So say when you're ready to retire, you have to prepare yourself something to keep yourself busy, keep yourself motivated, keep yourself, so you don't turn into a couch potatoes or be sluggish with your life and things like that. And so that's what I was interested in. So I decided to take on a new hobby, and happened to be this option trading that I was so afraid because I thought, what is option trading? And they said, when you become a real estate investor, you're going to make so much money. There's so many people make a lot of money with doing real estate. And you need to learn to make to invest and make your money work for you. And the strategies that we have is option trading. And I said, well, I never heard about it, but what is it? Tell me about it. And they says, well, it's going to cost this much money. And I said, okay, I don't have money. And then they said, you're going to have to learn about this computer. You have to do all this with the computer. And I was like, okay, count me out. Not only I don't have any money, but the computer, no.
Right.
And I said, no, thank you. So I just basically shut my vision out and said, no, thanks, I don't want it. So then I just kind of, start doing whatever I need to do. And I retired in 2015, exactly 1 year from the time that I was talking to my doctor.
Then you started? Wow.
I started, I said, I was having a conversation. I have to let my coworkers know that when I was going to retire. So I told my doctor, I said, I'm going to retire. He says, when? This was in 2014. And he says, when? I said, oh, within a year or two. He says, do you have any money? And I said, no. And he says, because we were like 2 weeks apart in age. So we're pretty close in age-wise.
Yeah.
And so we could talk about life. He says, oh, I cannot retire until at least I have $1 million saved up or more, because by the time we retire, he said, by the time we retire, things are going to be so expensive. We have to have at least $1 million or more. And I only had a $10 into my checking account. I didn't have any money in my savings because, again, I was struggling paycheck to paycheck. And I did have my 401k, my pension plan, but I cannot touch it when I retire because I was planning on retiring much earlier than, that the age required, right? And so I just took a bold action basically and says, I'm going to retire within a year. I did not give myself an excuse and say, I don't have any money, blah, blah, blah. But when I was looking into what I was going to do, the things that they told me and the things that it's going to cost me money, and I thought, okay, I don't have any of those things. I don't want to. I'm too scared to learn about this new skill about computer. No, thank you. And so I just went on with, focused on being a real estate investor and became a real estate ambassador for a real estate company. And I would give like a speaking engagement to a front of people for the company. And I would get paid like $300 for speaking for 10 minutes. And I thought, oh, I like this. I love it. I could do this, But that was just my part-time job. But then I was also looking at properties and investing into properties and things. And I would go to like what is it, auctions and things. But then
Sure.
also it took me away from home. And so I thought, wait a minute, I retired to stay home and now this is taking me away from home. And they wanted to start traveling to different states to give speeches and things like that, being an ambassador. So then I said, no, I don't want to. So that's the thing. When we want to do something, what we set a goal and said, we want to do this. And then while you're journeying your new journey, if it does not align with your mission or your goal, then you could change your mind. You're not being a failure, you know?
Right.
That's one thing that I had to learn too. It's like, man, I told people that I was going to do this. I was going to tell myself I was going to do this, but it doesn't align with my, my goal, what I wanted to do.
Right.
So then you have to quickly rethink and says, no, that's not failure. You change your mind. We could change your mind anytime. We don't have to explain to other people why we're changing our mind either.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Especially when it does not involve other people. It only involves you. Right? So when you're in a relationship, in a marriage and things like that, yeah, you have to tell them like whatever. But when you're doing your own business or whatever, it's on your own, you don't have to explain to anybody. Nobody's working under you. Right?
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah.
One thing that I have really learned was this. It's like, I didn't have to explain. It's not a failure if I change my mind. If I change my mind. That's the biggest thing that I really took away as an entrepreneur was that I've done so many different things and I could say to myself like, oh man, I failed. It's like, so for example, like I've been working with an internal medicine doctor for the last 20 years of my life, before I retired, was working with the elderly people. And every day they come in and I would engage with them and I would want to say, if I ever retire, I want to have a adult daycare to serve patients with the restorative therapy so that seniors could gain their memory and their physical muscles back so that they could live normal life. And so when they want to be able to go out with their families, they could go out, not having to say, no, you cannot walk. I cannot go because I can't, get in and out of the car and too hard for me to put jacket on and all that. So I was going to solve their issues. And so what happened was after I retired, actually, made, doing option trading, and that became how I made like $1 million, became a 7-figure option trader.
Yeah.
But I was able to create a daycare. And my husband and I, we opened it for 9 months and then the COVID hit.
Oh, yes.
And then we had to shut it down. So now let's kind of think about this step by step. If I would have known, just like all of us, whatever we want to do something, if we have a, 8-ball crystal, whatever, and so we could see what's going to happen in front of us in the future, we could decide and say, oh, I don't want to do that. No matter how much I want to do it, but I don't want to do it. So
but we don't have that. Life doesn't give us that, does it?
Yeah, you're going to open your passionable daycare to help seniors with this restorative therapy. But guess what? There's going to be a worldwide, a pandemic is going to happen. You have to shut it down. Are you still willing to pay $200,000 to, buy the building and remodel and then still wanting to open? I would say, heck no. I work too hard for my money. I don't want to waste my dime.
Right.
But we don't know, right? And
no, unfortunately.
So helping seniors, helping, people from wheelchair to learn to walk with holding on to, the walkers and things. We made a huge difference in seniors and things like that for a short time that we were open. And the pandemic, and it closed. And again, my life just went, oh, not again. Here I am.
Yes, another pivot.
Again, when we're journeying, what we want to do, there's a lot of things can happen to you by your decision, by your other people's decisions with the worldwide pandemics. There's so many things that happen to all of us that people make decisions. Like when we were little, like my dad made a decision. My sister made a decision. I didn't want them to make a decision, but I have no place to say, don't do that, right? And we make a decision, and it affects us. But the best part of the whole thing is like, you know what? You have to be grateful for the journeys that you have journeyed, that the opportunities that you got to have, right? You have to enjoy it. You have to have that gratitude. things that we think that is a failure because, public eyes, it was hard for me to put them on a Google and say, you know what, our business is closed now.
Right,
The
right.
whole world to search, adult daycare, Intermountain Health Daycare, adult daycare, you know, those things. And so it's really interesting. It's been fascinating. So now what I do is all the things that I have learned every time I go through things and then it has not worked out due to failures and things like that, I put that into my gold bag learning lessons and say, I'm using this as a tool. It's like this
Yes,
really helped me
yes,
becoming a stronger person, stronger entrepreneur, and a stronger mentor and a stronger coach for me to
yes.
teach others because I literally
Loved
learned
it.
biggest gold nugget lessons that I didn't even expect. But the reason
Yes.
that I learned because I was willing. I have open vision, open mind, open ears, open heart. But bring it on. I have a lot.
Yeah, I didn't even have anything to ask you because you said it all. It was so good. Like that's why I didn't like this episode. It's so funny. Every now and then, I love all the episodes, but every now and then I get one where I just let the person just have it because it's like your story is so good that there's not really anything for me to ask it. But here's what I will say. You said so many great things and there's so many takeaways from this. And I agree with you. I think some of us are chosen in life to be messengers. And I've had people say like light seekers, whatever you want to call them. I think some of us are chosen in life to have experiences. And, when I'm listening to you, our journeys are completely different. I never like to diminish anyone's story, but I hear parallels when I hear people talk about overcoming things. And there have been times, like when I've gone through my life and I've been diagnosed with two rare diseases that are just very like you go into the doctors and a lot of them do not know what they are. I've had to school emergency people about these disorders.
Wow.
But I say all this to say is that in the course of my life, I've had a lot of different things that if you were to look at all of these things, you would go, oh my gosh, it's like a lot of things that I've had to deal with, over time. But I truly believe two things. One, that I put myself in those positions to learn and that I've been curious enough to find the message in those things so that I could take away something. And so that's why I say, like, when I work with, entrepreneurs on different scopes, it's like I can talk and speak into these different things because I've had to navigate two chronic conditions. I've been in an abusive relationship. I've ran a business for 20 something years. I've walked in these shoes. And so do I have all the answers? No, but I feel like we've been chosen to have these experiences so that we can lean into somebody else and share those with people so they can learn from them, and I joke about it all the time because I always think I'm like, hopefully nobody ever has to do all of them, like has to go through all of those things. Like maybe I can help them shave off some of that. But like you, in the time that when these bad things happen, we can sit in them and think, gosh, they're really bad. But when we go forward and look back, we have a different feeling about them because we go, yeah, that was hard. But man, look at what I learned in that moment. Look what came in the aftermath of that awful experience. You've had so many hard things. And I'm like, wow, you taught yourself to walk, taught yourself how to speak English. You embraced a new culture at a young age, learned how to adapt and learned how to go from a 33-year career into a different space because you realize, hey, look, I got a cool job, but I ain't necessarily fulfilled. There's got to be more to life than this. I just think this all stems back to your resilience, your grit, your curiosity, and your unrelenting, your willingness to just keep going forward and doing better. So I commend you, lady. Awesome.
Thank you. Well, I think that the podcast space that you have created for the world, for people, the listeners, and, just I can't say enough gratefulness of the gratitude that pour out to people because I think as your audience that listens with your own stories, right, and the people that you bring on as a guest too, is like we want to really. It's not our story. It's like the story of like for me, it's like the creator, right? But we
Yeah.
happen to be in it,
Right.
and we all have a different journey, but in a way, we're all similar. But like, I wouldn't, there's times where I would say, I would give anything, not having to go through what I've been through. I would trade with you. But you know, but those moments, those journeys, those hardships, those unthinkable thoughts and the experience that we go through, that's what shapes us. That's what
Absolutely.
makes you unique, and that's what makes me unique, and that's what makes your listeners unique individually.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
there's only one you. There's only
Right.
one me. There's nobody just like so very, very I mean like there's only just one person. Like there we may find somebody like look like us, even from
Right.
same country, same agency, but the journey is just so different. That's what makes us so unique, and just we just need to really embrace like who we are, and just really be like grateful that opportunities that we have gotten. And that's another thing. Like we have to put ourselves where there's an opportunity, because nobody's gonna come, nobody knocked at my door. I'm sure is to you and for your listeners. So nobody's gonna come and knocking at your door and say, knock knock, Sun Young, guess what? I understand. I heard that you had a horrible life as a child. And I think that it's about time that you deserve. And so here it is. Nobody
Yeah,
does.
not going to happen.
No, we have
No.
to go where there's an opportunity, but then also there's so many opportunities that we could take, right? But then what are we going to do about it? Like
Right.
we listen to motivational, like there's times where I've listened to motivational speakers, right? Through the different places that I've been to. And then I'm so excited. Like I was like, I'm psyched up. I'm going to be a different person. You're like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I get home. Minute I walked into the door, and guess what?
Yep, life happens.
Same,
Yep.
same house, same rules, same everything. Nothing has changed. Even me.
Yeah.
The
You got to take that
thing,
step.
only thing that's going to change is I have to change. I have to take actions now, not tomorrow or next week or next month or next year, because sometimes the next year that we talked about, that is 20, 30 years later. Or some people have never taken the action. In 50, they spoke about it 50 years ago. Someday,
Yeah.
we have
Yeah.
to.
What's that saying? There's so many, right? Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So good. Well, Sonia, I so appreciate you, and I appreciate you sharing your story. This is wonderful. And I know somebody listening to this is going to hear this and it's going to inspire them. But yes, we've said so many great things, and you said so many great things, and you got to take action. You can't just listen to this episode and go, okay, well, that's great for Sun Young and that's great for Jennifer. No, you have to take action today. And that's why we keep putting this out there, is to hopefully inspire somebody, and somebody will hear a story and go, that was the thing that helped me make the next step. So we appreciate you. If our audience wants to get in touch with you, there may be somebody listening to this and they want to reach out and connect with you or follow you or find out what you got going on. Where do you want us to send them?
Sure. They could connect with me through Instagram. I have a link tree, and the link tree has everything that I do. Like, you know, I have even the books that I wrote, actually, the excuses that I have used over my lifetime.
Okay, I see it.
So,
okay, and is the Instagram, is it in your name? It's under your name, or
yes, after Sun
okay.
Young. And then I have
Perfect.
everything, like my YouTube channel, all the links that they could connect with me. I would love journey, you know, my journey with them, and just I know the results, and results are just brings me. It's like unrealistic. It's just unbelievable.
I know you're so happy. I can see it. I can hear it in your voice, and I pick up on people's energy, so I can tell when people are like, I don't know. I can see that you're happy and you love what you get to do. It's evident, and you wouldn't be sharing the story the way it wouldn't come across like this. So I love it. We'll make sure when the show notes go out, we'll get something in there and put something on here so they know how to find you, and hopefully somebody will, you know, I'm going to connect with you so I can keep up with what you're doing too. So appreciate everything you shared today. It's been fun. I'm so glad I got to know you. Fun stuff. Thank you. And of course, to our audience, we appreciate you and are grateful for everything that you do to support the show. And you know what to do. We hope you found this episode inspiring and informative. And so go out there and share, comment, like, subscribe, do all the things so we can continue to share all this fabulous content. And as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start. And every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another, and we will see you next time.